A head coach doesn't vanish in the middle of an international tournament, unless something behind those closed doors finally broke open Team USA sideline, coaching clipboard on bench. That's exactly what happened in Puerto Rico. Cheryl Lawson, Team USA's head coach, was gone before the tournament finished. No press release. No statement. No explanation. Just gone. And the man who replaced her, Phoenix Mercury head coach Nate Tibbetts, had no official role with this team 24 hours earlier. His first decision? Start Caitlin Clark. Today on WNBA Nation, we're going through everything. The plan that failed, the coach who disappeared, and the 14 world records that happened anyway. But to understand why this blew up the way it did, you need to go back to Game 1, because what Clark did off the bench that night should have changed everything immediately. The plan that made NOS going into this tournament, there was a deliberate strategy in place. Caitlin Clark, the most electrifying player in women's basketball right now, would not be starting. For out of 5 games, she was coming off the bench-in-box score graphic Game 1 against Siegel. Clark enters as a reserve, plays restricted minutes, and proceeds to shatter 5 FIA world records in a single night. She recorded the highest assist total ever posted by a USA debut player in FIA qualifying history. Records that had survived for decades, gone. In one game. By a player who wasn't even in the opening lineup. Lawson's response to all of that? Put her right back on the bench for the next game. The offensive identity in those first 2 games was deliberate and slow. Half-court sets. Veterans controlling the ball. The shot clock draining before a single shot went up. There's a coaching philosophy inside that, and it's connected directly to Stephanie White, who serves as both the Indiana Fever head coach and a Team USA assistant. White has been vocal about wanting Clark operating within a pre-built structure rather than being the engine the structure runs through. Rhetorical question, but what kind of strategic logic asks a player who just broke 5 world records to slow down and blend in? SFX. Crowd murmuring. The team was winning. The offense was functional. But functional is a long way from dangerous, and nobody watching those first 2 games would describe them as a team on the verge of something special. Clark would rotate in, create moments, and rotate back out. The wins came. The records kept falling. And still bench minutes. Then came the Puerto Rico game, and the whole situation finally cracked in public. They deployed a box and 1, dedicating an entire individual defender to following her everywhere on the floor. It's the kind of scheme you run against exactly one player, the one you're most afraid of. And with the offensive system already running at reduced speed around Clark, it worked. The team looked stuck. Commentators flagged it. Fans watching at home felt it. This wasn't a talent problem, this was a structure problem, visible to everyone except the people drawing up the plays. And then Lawson stepped up to the microphone after the game and made it worse. Reporter asked her directly about Clark's role. Lawson redirected. She spoke about giving everyone a chance to contribute. She didn't reference the records. She didn't address the minutes. She didn't say Clark's name. Just a pivot and a non-answer and move on. When a reporter asks your coach about your best player by name and the coach talks about everything except that player, what exactly is that telling you 5 world records broken, and the head coach wouldn't say her name at the podium? That press conference became the moment everyone started asking louder questions. And shortly after, the answer to those questions arrived in a way nobody expected. Game 3 tips off. Nate Tibbetts is standing on the Team USA sideline in a polo shirt. He's calling timeouts. He's drawing up plays. He is running this team. Cara Lawson is nowhere in the building. USA Basketball released nothing. No statement about a personal matter. No scheduling explanation. No transition announcement. An organization overseeing a national team in the middle of a global qualifying tournament said absolutely nothing about why its head coach was no longer present. When institutions go that silent about something this visible, it's rarely because the answer is simple. MC6, the internet started connecting dots almost immediately, and the dots lined up in one direction. Lawson disappeared right after Puerto Rico. Right after the press conference where she refused to engage with the Clark conversation. Right after the Clark situation had evolved from an online debate into a full national story about coaching decisions and wasted potential. The timeline doesn't leave much room for coincidence. No official confirmation came from USA Basketball. But the organization's first visible action under new leadership told the story clearly enough. Tibbetts' opening move. Caitlin Clark starts. Clark starting lineup, New Zealand game 3 against New Zealand. Clark is in the starting 5. The offense runs through her from the opening possession. Team USA wins by 55 points, 55. The roster didn't change overnight. Nobody got faster or stronger between games. The system changed. And one system change, putting Clark in the right position to do what she naturally does, produced a 55-point margin against a team that had been fully preparing for this tournament. Clark played 23 minutes. 14 points. 6 assists. 0 turnovers. But the number that matters most isn't on the stat sheet, it's how it happened. Early in possessions, Clark was already pushing transition before defenses could organize. Teammates were getting clean looks at the start of the shot clock, not the end of it. The floor spacing opened immediately because every defender on the court had to account for Clark at full speed. And Tibbetts didn't dodge the question afterward the way his predecessor had, who was direct about the approach. Clark running alongside Kelsey Plum. Paige Buchers operating in open space. Guard-heavy lineups, faster pace, decisions happening at speed. He talked about Clark the way coaches talk about players they actually want to build around. One lineup change, one decision to start Clark, and the entire team transformed overnight. Game 4 against Italy. Clark, Plum, and Buchers share the backcourt simultaneously. 3 guards on the floor who can all handle, all pass, all make reads. Italy has no answer. USA wins by 34. The offense has personality now, pace, movement, and a floor general operating where she's most destructive under Lawson. Clark was asked to shrink into a system that had already been decided. Under Tibbetts, the system got rebuilt to fit what Clark actually does. Push pace. Read early. Create for teammates before the rotation can arrive. Punish any defense that tries to drag the tempo down. Those are 2 completely different starting philosophies, and the scoreboard reflected the difference every single game. Clark MVP trophy presentation. Crowd reaction. By the time the final game tipped off, Clark was starting, playing the most minutes on the roster, and the MVP conversation was already settled. The tournament ended with 14 FIA world records across 7 days. 14. And she spent the majority of that stretch coming off the bench. Let's run the full tournament line one more time. Clark led Team USA in minutes, points, 2-point field goal percentage, free throws made and attempted, assists, plus-minus, and efficiency. Then she led the entire tournament, not just her team, every player from every country in the field, in plus-minus and efficiency. She is 22 years old. This is not her ceiling. This is her floor. The Clark situation carries weight beyond this tournament. Sponsorship conversations have shifted. The WNBA's collective bargaining negotiations are happening right now, and Clark's international market value just got documented in a format that's impossible to dispute. This isn't a domestic phenomenon anymore. The record books from an international competition confirm it. And Fever fans specifically need to watch the Stephanie White situation heading into 2026. White was part of the Puerto Rico coaching staff that built the slow, controlled system Clark was asked to operate within. This tournament ran a live 5-game comparison between that philosophy and its opposite. If White watched all of this from the sideline and still walks into Indiana's 2026 training camp with the same approach, what does that tell you about what's coming? The fans who said Clark was being mismanaged were right. The analysts who said the math didn't support the lineup decisions were right. USA Basketball confirmed it by making the change, even if they'd never say those words in public. 14 world records. A vanished head coach. The youngest MVP in FIA qualifying tournament history. And a 22-year-old who produced all of that while playing backup minutes. Clark post-game celebration. If this video gave you the full picture, hit that like button right now and share it with someone who needs to understand what just happened. Here at WNBA Nation, we don't let stories this big get buried, we break them all the way down. Drop your answer in the comments. Do you think the coaching change was directly because of how Clark was handled? Let's hear it.